Right, welcome back to another video. Today's guest is Mr. Harry Armstrong. How we doing, bro?
I'm all good, man. How are
Yeah,
you?
yeah, good. And this is just going to be a bit of a general chat. We're going to talk a little bit about, some personal stuff, work stuff, training for myself, for Harry, Mr. Triathlon over here. But yeah, we'll get into it. Mate. So, firstly, it's been sorry, I need to come close to the mic. It's been a long time coming, this, mate. Talk to me a little bit about, physique, how you got into physique, how many years you've been in physique, and now what like the transition has been like from being just like solely coaching to now just basically managing like the operational
Yeah,
side of
man.
things.
Started with George back in 2021, I think. I think it was full time, but the year before I actually started working with him, coaching alongside my other role. I was in banking. I was in worked for HSBC in Manchester. I was in like recruitment, business assurance, auditing, compliance, all that boring stuff.
Quite a switch.
Yes,
Yeah.
very much. But obviously, I was always into fitness. I was always training. I did a bit of PT and did a bit of like coaching and stuff like that. So when George like offered me that opportunity, he came to me. He was like, "Harry, I need someone to come in and help coach," because he was just, I think he had around like 100 clients or whatever, trying to run a business at the same time. That's all they did 24/7. So obviously it's not sustainable, right? So he needed someone to come in and help coach and take on some of them clients. So that's what I kind of started off doing. Like I said, back in 2020, I was still doing that. I think it was around January's time, and then ran them clients alongside my other job. It was great because COVID happened, right? So I was working at home at the same time. It was a perfect time. Like, I know COVID was such a bad thing for so many people. For me, it like changed my life in a good way.
And that's when you first joined physique, was it?
Yeah,
Oh,
during
yeah.
COVID, it sparked this opportunity. I took it by the horns, and ran with it. And I knew it was going to become something because it was just snowballing. It was like one of them, one of them things where you see a business just spark up out of nowhere. It's like, Jesus, they've blown up so quick. That's what I felt like I was in. I was in this kind of crazy snowball effect.
Well, now like we've got like what was it? 28 coaches.
Yes.
28 coaches. Yeah. I think I was like the seventh or eighth.
Yeah.
So I was still relatively early on. I think the Instagram page at the time, this was only 2 years ago, had 8,000 followers, and now it's 10 times that.
Yeah. It's
within
crazy,
the space
mate.
of 2 years, isn't it?
I was literally saying to a client yesterday on a call, and we were just having a catch up, and he was telling me about kind of, he's been one of my clients since like near the start, over 3 years, and we were talking about his progression in his life. He's now getting married, he wants children, but he kind of has this drive to want to earn more money. And how he's like progressed through his career, and then I was going through mine experience and stuff, and it was just like almost a reflection on where we started to where we are now. And it's crazy, mate, but I never ever want to go back. And what I was saying to him is it's good to have something to look back at where you once were, to force you and push you and pressure you into pushing
Like
forward.
fuel to the fire, isn't it?
Yes, and even though some people might see it as a negative, it's a positive. Pressure is a privilege, right?
Pressure is a privilege.
To drive forward. So I know I never ever want to go back to what I was doing, ever.
No, and even the same for me, bro. Like, I think the natural trajectory for any online coach or PT is like, you do your level 2 gym instructor, you do your level 3 PT, and then the natural progression is you start out on the gym floor, you start meeting people, have that one-to-one interaction, and just start generally working with people in fitness. But if you work at like a commercial gym, you're just sort of capped at potential because you're capped at your local community.
Yeah.
You're still trying to find your niche, and it's really difficult just to sort of, financially see any gain from it, especially during COVID. I was quite fortunate because I was employed. Like, I know a lot of local PTs that you know, then had to start doing just, that's what shifted them online, and have to start training in parks and doing like Zoom sessions and stuff. Whereas I was lucky to be furloughed, so I was just basically sat at home, and that's when I sort of started implementing, or like just experimenting with like some form of online coaching just with people at home. And that's sort of like, I think, what led me to Physique, just because I was at a point where I was a little bit not lost with purpose, but I was sort of, I'd finished university, or I was coming up to finishing university. I'd done like a secondment as a sales consultant. I was selling gym memberships, which I could speak to people and, you know, could like, you know, sell a gym. Yeah, gift of the gab, bro. But like, it wasn't really like what I was passionate about, you know. I felt a little bit awkward doing it. So, and then George approached me. We actually went for a session at David Law, and he just said, at that time as well, because it was a lot smaller. It was still big, but a lot smaller than it is now. He was just like, if you want it, then it's there. And then like 6 months down the line, after I finished this secondment, that was when I was like, I'm ready. And then within like 2 months, fully booked, 45 to 50 clients. Obviously, like when you first start as a coach, that initial, especially in Physique, you know, with learning all the processes, especially now, building up your client base, like initially, is the hardest part, because it's like you're doing consultation call, then you do an intro call, then you're setting someone up, and it's like you're juggling all these things at once. But then once you sort of get that consistency, and, you know, you start to retain clients after a long period of time, it does sort of ease off a little bit, and you do get into like a bit more of a routine with it.
Yeah, it's so intense, isn't it?
Yeah.
So intense. We say that to everyone who comes on board now, and it's like, listen, it's going to be a graft. It's going to be hard at the start. You could be someone who's like, listen, I don't want it to be too hard. Let's pull back a little bit. But if you want to be fully booked in 1-2 months, you can be. It's just going to take a lot to do that. But the thing is, like, you've got to think about it. You're not going to be great at everything you're doing right then, because it's so new to you as well. So you're learning on the job. You know, you're going to have so many different experiences with different clients coming in all of a sudden. And it's like, oh, you know, it's quite overwhelming, right? But then as you start to get into it, you know, 6 months down the line, a year down the line, you're flowing. And that's when it becomes, okay, you can relax, you get a bit more time to yourself, you can do this, you can do that, because you're managing everything then really well, aren't you? And it's quicker to do things. You're more efficient at doing different processes, right? So that's when you start to get your time back. All that effort you've put in, you know, that graft, that time starts to, you know, pay you back. And that's definitely something that's happened to me as well. Like when I first started with George, and I had that other job, and it was like, you know, pretty much 24/7 working, but I liked it, right? I was like, oh, it's happening. Let's go. Let's push. You know, and I even look back, I was checking clients in on my honeymoon, right? I look back now, I'm like, what was I doing?
Yeah, like,
but in that situation, it's like, I need to, right? I needed to. I was so invested in it. Obviously, I still am, right? But I was so invested in that growth to progress. But again, like working for myself, I was holding on to this like amazing thing that was happening. And again, I didn't want it to go back.
What's like the dynamic, obviously, because you and George are brothers, what's the dynamic of, you know, working like with family? You know, how do you find it? What's like the dynamic of it?
It's a weird one, right? So it's a good question. In terms of, does it change things? I think you've got to look at it in, there's your work relationship, and then there's a family relationship. I think when things start to cross, that's when issues start to arise. You know, and I know other people who have businesses and they work with family and stuff like that, and you know some people who it works, and there's some people that don't, and they don't like necessarily have a family relationship kind of thing anymore. It's just like you go to work, you see each other, you kind of, you know, you speak there, and that's it. I think it helps that we don't necessarily speak all the time as well. Like we do different things. If we're on top of each other all the time, I think that would make it harder. If George lived here potentially as well, you know, it makes it easier in that sense. But like George is good at his things that he does. I do my things. So I think that's how it works, I think, as well. Like that's how it's progressed as it is. It's like, you know, you come together instead of kind of clashing. You're not on top of each other. like I won't really comment on the things he's doing, and he won't comment on the things I'm doing, right? Because I'm good at that, he's good at this. So
Yeah.
I think that's how it works, and it makes it easier, really.
Yeah. Well, different qualities, isn't it?
Exactly.
And yeah, different qualities. And with you know, work and how busy it is now, obviously you're quite a relatively new dad.
Yeah.
How old is Romeo?
She's 1.5. Yeah.
1.5.
Yeah.
So what's
just over?
do you think, like, you know, your priorities have sort of changed, you know, with like, or time management, you know, with training and then work and then family time? Do you think like you've got a good structure for that now? Or like, what's like your main advice for someone that becoming a new dad, you know, and it's still all new, a bit like when you first started at Physique, you're learning all these new processes, everything's new, like, but still trying to keep on with, you know, your fitness goals and stuff.
Yeah.
What's like your biggest sort of?
Well, first thing, it's amazing being a dad. There's a lot of, especially like as Nina was pregnant and like, you know, before we had Romy, there's always negative comments, mate. It's crazy. It's always like, oh, your life's gonna change. It's gonna, you know, you're not gonna have time to do anything anymore. You know, the old you's gone. It's like, oh, this is what I want, and this is like, it's such an amazing positive thing. It's, you know, unfortunately, just people have a negative mindset around anything, right? And it's just how you approach it. It's about, you know, you, yourself, your partner as well, being a team. And I think that's what makes it work. Like, honestly, I love getting up with Romy. That's kind of my job. So I'll get up with Romy. She might wake like anywhere from 6 till 7:30, say, right? So I know I ain't going to train in the morning because she could get up at 6 or 7:30 or whatever. So I spend that time either in bed waiting for her to get up, whatever, and then I'll have the morning with her until I start work at, say, like 8 o'clock, right? So I get that, you know, at least around 2 hours with her in the mornings. It's amazing. I love it. And then I'll start work, right? So, and I've got my work day. Now, we're fortunate enough where Nina doesn't work anymore. She works for us, you know, she's part-time with us, so she does 2 days a week. Romy goes to nursery twice a week. So Nina works on them days, right? Monday, Tuesdays, and then when, obviously, Romy's not in nursery, Nina's with her, you know, they're doing things, they're going out, and I'll get my stuff done. So that's my aim. My aim is to get my stuff done within my work day. So it's the work, it's the, you know, half of the training. So my lunch around, I normally train, my first session is normally like late morning, just before lunch, because then I'll take my dog out at lunchtime, right? So, and I obviously try to get all my work done. Now and again, it doesn't happen, I have to do some later on, but then I will spend that time with Romy after work. So from 5 till, and I'll put her to bed, right? At 7 o'clock. So I get them extra 2 hours as well with her, which again, I love, right? It's amazing. It's so fun. And then I'll go and train then after that.
You train like twice a day at the moment, don't
yes,
you?
yeah, I do. So obviously it takes up a lot of time, but I make them choices to do that, and I choose what I want to do, right? So, you know, if someone like suggested to do something else, you know, and I didn't want to do it, I'd turn it down because I know that my priorities are either, you know, work or training or, you know, with Romy or whatever, and with Nina as well, right? So my wife. So I want to spend time with her, so I choose to do that. That's what I want to be busy at. And I think that's what people, you know, especially if they've got busy lives, when it's with work, with family, they potentially choose the wrong things to be busy at. It's like, I don't have enough, you know, any time to train. Well, choose that time. You need to make the time to train, and then you need to move other things around.
I think that the main thing, though, of everything that you've just said, bro, is routine.
Yeah.
You know, you've got that 2 hours in the morning, and then, you know, you've got your set hours at work.
Yeah.
Where, you know, Nina will be doing stuff with Romy, and then you've got the hours in the evening as well. You know, I think it's just like scheduling your day, isn't it? Which I think a lot of people just sort of wing it, and they just sort of just try and mix everything together. But like, either you know that you've got the 2 hours Romy, then it's like work mode, then it's training mode. So like, because you've segmented each part of your day, that's probably why it works so well. And also because you and Nina both have those responsibilities,
Yeah.
like set responsibilities, a bit like house chores and stuff. Like
100%.
who does the dishes,
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
And, yeah, but I think people will kind of potentially look at that and go, well, when do you have time to, like, I don't know, go out and do random shit? And I'm just like, well, I'll leave that potentially for the weekend. My week during the week, Monday to Friday, it's locked in. I don't do anything else. Right? Someone will send me to do something, but I don't have time to do that. I struggle to see my mum and dad, right? Because I can't fit them in.
Yeah.
And yeah, I get it, right? They are also a priority to do that, but I'll then find time, say, at the weekend to do that where, I have a lot more time available to myself when I'm not working. But it's like you said, it's about scheduling it up, prioritizing what you actually want to do, and just putting that in within your day and finding the time for it or making the time for it.
Making the time, yeah.
Because you will never, if you're always looking for time, you'll never find it. Honestly, you'll never find it. You're always going to be chasing your tail. You've got to make that time. And that's, something personally I do myself and trying to help my clients with as well.
No excuse though, like, especially as a coach, if you're, still relatively new dad, you're training twice a day and you're not like completely fucking burnt out, then that just shows you, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That just shows you.
You can do it. You can do it like, people will sit down from 5, 6 o'clock at night all the way through to bed at telly, watching Netflix, right? I probably spend an hour to an hour and a half doing that. I want to do it because I like spending time with my wife. We always make dinner together. We always have dinner together. And then we'll sit down we're watching Maths at the moment, Married at First Sight, right? It's rubbish TV.
Well, my
right?
mum is obsessed with that,
It's
bro.
so
she watches
funny.
that on the lunch break.
And we have a laugh, right? And then we'll go to bed. Like last night we went to bed about 11:30. So I go to bed late because I like spending that time with Nina at night. And I don't get up at stupid o'clock in the morning because I'm going to bed late. I just wait for Romy to get up, right? So again, the earliest she might wake up is 6 o'clock, up until...
And that's like, when you go to bed at 11:30, that's like, boom, lights out.
Yeah. And then, like I try and aim for that 7 hours sleep. I don't get caught up in it. I don't have some weird, like, morning ritual and stuff like that. It's like, get up, I'll go and get Romy out of bed, and then I'll take her downstairs and we'll watch some films. She loves films at the moment. So I'll just do that. I'll have a coffee, chill out. That's my time with her. And then, the day starts really at about 8 o'clock when we get to work. So
Yeah, if we've got a morning meeting.
Yeah. That's usually the case. Pretty much every day for me is morning meetings.
Whether it's with, obviously, coach meetings are Monday, Wednesday, maybe Thursday if it's sales.
Yeah.
Then Tuesday and Friday, is that more with marketing?
Yeah, so we've got like Tuesdays are like marketing, and then it's lead gen. And then what else have we got on Tuesdays? Sales is Wednesdays. We've got client success on Fridays. Oh, we've got Jamie's call, which is like head of coaching on Tuesdays as well. So Tuesdays are quite a busy, heavy day on the calls, but that's where the progression comes. We're talking to each business area. We're looking at like strategy, how we can improve on last month and stuff like that, and what's coming forward. Like we just implemented the full team monthly vision call, didn't we? Which happens once a month, which is kind of what we wanted to bring in with what we'd already been doing with each business area. Now we have it with everyone, giving a bit of a summary, and everyone then understands, okay, this is happening. This went well last month. Let's do it again. Let's kind of progress this way, and it just gives everyone a good idea of how the business is going, really. So that's working quite well. So yeah, that's my role really. It's sitting on a lot of calls and kind of looking at strategy, and then I've got my own kind of stuff that I work on, which is like process stuff and systems.
Yeah. And do you now? Obviously, you told me on the weekend you only coach like 5 guys.
Yeah,
five guys.
Five guys.
Five guys.
Five guys.
Give them the point in the nutrition.
Oh, 5
But but like, do you now, like, because obviously you joined Physique, you were just coaching. Do you miss coaching more? Like having that solely, like, like doing like just the solely the operations, which is obviously is like, it's hands on, but it's sort of like more like behind the scenes a lot of this.
Yeah, it is. Totally. That's a good question. I think I go through like waves of it. So I think beforehand, started to love the coaching. That's when I first started, right? And then obviously I had a lot of clients, and it was just coaching, trying to build the business into, you know, what it is now. And that, again, that was very busy. And I really started to enjoy the process side of it, the systems and stuff, and learning on that side of things. So it got to a point I was like, I prefer that. I prefer looking at how the business is improving, you know, marketing, sales, everything. And that's what I really got into. And I was like, you know what, like, I'd rather do that, put my focus into that rather than coaching. And at that time, I didn't need to be coaching. Like, I had my clients, but obviously we had more coaches coming in. And what we've got to think about is trying to get them coaches set up and full as well. So I'm not the priority, really. I'd coach someone who specifically wanted me, or, you know...
Like if they message you on Instagram and say, I want to be coached by you. Basically.
Or, you know, I was the person who was going to be best suited for them, and they booked in for a call, right? So they'd get sent to me.
And is that mainly now like endurance athletes, or have you still got like just like
no,
for the small people you've got, have you still just got like the average sort of body composition, fat loss?
Yeah, like I've got a few that have been with me for years, right? So most of them are them. I've literally just signed up a guy, a young lad. He lives in Horwich. He's actually away on some project in Saudi. He's a PT for like the army there. It's crazy. So he started working with me, but he reached out to me personally because he liked the kind of style that I partake in and the results that I've got and around the hybrid, right? So he's someone who started running, but he really wants to now focus on like muscle building, and you know that's his physique and his strength is kind of the focus, but still wants this base of endurance with potential further down the line to bring it in again, and have that as a focus. So he's just started working with me. So yeah, like again, I think people come to me or gravitate towards me for the expertise and like what I do myself, but I am no means like an endurance specialist at all, right? I learned myself for a number of years, running that alongside bodybuilding training. So I've put my own practice into place, whereas specifically endurance, that's where Ollie comes in, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm actually learning now from Ollie with him being my coach. So I'm learning on top of the stuff I've done, specifically endurance, but really specifics, type of training within each discipline. And I'm progressing really well, but it's just, my knowledge is just going through the roof, right? So potential now, further down the line, I'll be able to do that more often, just, have that knowledge there for guys who are more advanced in endurance, because I can 100% coach someone who's maybe starting out or is, relatively new to it. But when someone comes to me and they're like, they've been in the game for years, and they're already smashing out, Ironmans, triathlons, whatever, and they're really good. It's different. There's a different level to that programming that you need to know, and that's kind of what I'm probably gaining right now. Whereas I've coached guys to Ironman, but again, they were new
to it. So it's just a case of, it's not like they're aiming to hit a certain time, for example. It's just a case of, I want to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a difference between racing
and completing.
Yeah.
Yeah.